Welcome to the Korea Society's Arts and Culture program. For those of you who had the chance to check out our current exhibition by contemporary artist Sungmin An and her artist talk with Eleanor Hyun, you've heard this word many times, and that word is minhwa. And you may have been wondering, what is exactly minhwa? And we are thrilled to welcome Professor Sunglim Kim to the Korea Society as she will explore minhwa, the Korean word for folk painting. Sunglim Kim is an associate professor of Korean art and culture at Dartmouth College. She specializes in material and consumer culture of the late Joseon period and women artists in modern and contemporary Korea. For those of you who are here and joining us online for the live webcast, you will have a chance to ask questions to Professor Kim after the lecture. If you're joining us online, please send your questions via email to artsandculture@koreasociety.org. And now please welcome Professor Sunglim Kim.
Thank you, Jay, for a very kind introduction. And thank you, Korea Society, to invite me for this very exciting chance to talk about minhwa and to discuss it. So minhwa is usually translated as Korean folk painting. However, in this talk, I define minhwa as Korean paintings of the people, by the people, and for the people. As this definition implies, the people are at the center of Korean minhwa. This presentation has 3 parts. While Korea's long tradition of painting extends throughout its history, I would first like to explore the record of the late Joseon dynasty to see what kinds of paintings were then favored and where and how Koreans enjoyed them in everyday life. And second, we will look at a very important genre of minhwa, tiger with magpies, or hojakdo. It is probably one of the most representative and popular minhwa subjects. We will explore how minhwa painters developed this particular genre to reflect the people's humor and resistance spirit. Third, we will look at another very popular form of minhwa, chaekgeori. That is Korean still life painting, which first appeared at the Joseon court and was promoted by King Jeongjo in the late 18th century. Chaekgeori screens soon spread to the homes of the elite, the technocrats, and wealthy commoners, and the realistic and illusionistic court style chaekgeori screens were followed by smaller, symbolic, and stylistic tabletop minhwa chaekgeori styles. Both court and tabletop style chaekgeori reveal very much about the artistic creativity and imagination of Koreans. In the study of Joseon art, we usually learn about 2 types of artists. The first type is the scholar amateur painter, an educated elite who painted for self-expression and social exchange, but not for sale. Their painting modes were personal, expressive, and calligraphic. They limited their painting subjects to landscapes and the 4 gentleman plants, that is, plum blossom, orchids, chrysanthemum, and bamboo trees. They also prefer to paint with monochrome ink on paper. Their works were called literati paintings, or muninhwa in Korean. The second type is the court painters who worked for the royal court. Their diverse subject ranged from landscapes and figure paintings, including portraits and genre paintings, to documentary work such as maps and depictions of gatherings or events. And they are colorful and detail-oriented. And these skilled works are called court paintings. And court painters used both ink and colors on silk and paper. Court, court paintings were done by order. However, court painters were not well paid, so for extra income, they received commissions from scholar officers and painted for wealthy merchants. While the scholars, amateurs, and court painters have been highlighted in Joseon Korean art history, other artists, such as Buddhist monks, women painters, and folk painters, have been largely overlooked, if not completely dismissed. Then, who are these painters that produce so-called the minhwa? Although some known court painters did participate in painting minhwa for the market, most minhwa painters are unknown. They may have been itinerant commoners, artistically talented, yet not formally educated or trained. And they painted for sale. They painted diverse subjects derived from court and or literary paintings. Their work was based on underdrawings, and folk paintings had functions such as wishing for good luck, longevity, or fertility, or driving off evil spirits, or were purely for decoration. They were usually very colorful, and folk painters used cheap materials as their work was for consumption and daily use. People pasted minhwa directly on gates and walls. During much of the Joseon dynasty, paintings were enjoyed exclusively by the privileged elites and royal family. However, this changed in the late 18th century with the rise of consumer and material culture in Korea. Now, I would like to look at some written records of the minhwa. In the Joseon period, Seoul, then called Hanyang, was divided by the Cheonggae Stream, across which were many bridges connecting the northern and southern parts of the capital. Gwangtong Bridge was the sixth and largest stone bridge, and its central location connected the administrative district to the commercial area called Jongno and the South Gate. Over time, various markets with numerous shops developed along the main road between Jongno and Gwangtong Bridge. The earliest text describing paintings displayed for sale on Gwangtong Bridge is the late 18th century poem of Seoul's scene 한경사 by Kang In-cheon. At midday, colorful paintings are hung on the Gwangtong Bridge pillars. Many hanging scrolls are like multi-panel screens. Nowadays, the majority of works are paintings by painters from the Royal Bureau of Painting, and many people favor the genre paintings. Figures in the genre paintings are skillfully painted, just like living people. The most vivid visual depiction of the various paintings displayed for sale at the shops near Gwangtong Bridge is in the 1844 narrative poem Song of Hanyang by a poet known by the pen name Recluse of Han Mountain or Hansan Goja. So I'm not going to read it since it's very long, but please feel free to read it yourself. The poet identifies different painting subjects, formats, and functions. Most are genre and folk paintings executed in vibrant colors. And I will show you some of the paintings. And I will show first 4 screens that the poem mentions. That is the 100 children's screens and so on. The 100 children's screens shows an abundance of boys playing in luxurious palace garden settings. After the theme was first developed by Chinese artists in the 900s, it became very popular in Korea, and it represented hope for the birth of children and for their success. These screens were used as a backdrop for children's birthday parties, New Year's parties, and other celebratory gatherings. So the next screen again depicts a Chinese originated theme, the banquet of the Mother of the West, where she, along with the King Father of the East, invites the Taoist immortals every 3,000 years to celebrate the ripening of the peaches. The next screen is an 8-panel folding screen depicting a banquet honoring Guo Ziyi, a famed general of Chinese Tang Dynasty. In addition to his individual achievements, he lived to the age of 85. And his children and family were also very successful. Thus, he was considered a blessed man and became a paragon of Confucian loyalty and fortitude. Banquet images celebrating Guo Ziyi and the Queen Mother of the West became popular in 19th century Joseon Korea. Both were shown enjoying a dance performance surrounded by their family and guests in a palatial residence with flowers, trees, cranes, deer, and birds. These screens were used at celebrations where the images would add to the auspicious of the occasion. Next is the 6-panel screen, farming and silk farming, with a peaceful countryside scenes of men working on farms while women do silk farming. So from right to left, we see plowing, rice planting, reaping and stacking rice, weaving and picking mulberry leaves. The next part of the poem is interesting as it tells where to place the painting and describes the painting formats. For example, plum blossom, bamboo, orchids, and chrysanthemums are 4 closet doors. As for the hanging scrolls, there is a scene of Sunglim from the 9-Cloud Dream, transforming a flower into a jewel in front of 8 heavenly maidens. Another scene has an 80-year-old Jian Taigong dangling his straight ruler in the water, waiting for a while as King Wen from Zhou state comes to recruit the wise man. By the early 19th century, not only could anyone with money purchase paintings and decorate their houses with them, but people were advised on where to put which kinds of paintings. For example, the miscellaneous records of the capital by the scholar Yu Gong says, on walls, hang paintings like Zhonghui quelling demons and immortals riding on deer. On screens, plant 12,000 peaks of diamond mountains and 8 views of Guangdong. For small screens, paint flowers, birds, and butterflies. As for the wedding screens, paint 100 children, pleasant outings of Guo Ziyi, and banquets of the Queen Mother of the West, which we have seen. And for public parties, including weddings, the elites use big screens with paintings of peonies. Likewise, the painting Korean Domestic Interior by the Scottish painter Elizabeth Keith, who visited Korea in 1919, visually attests to the poem's description of the Joseon people's customs of home decoration. Calligraphy and painting decorate every corner of the house. The paintings above the window appears to be 10 symbols of longevity, and flowers and birds in different fans shaped are pasted on the paper windows. A colorful multi-panel folding screen decorates an inside room. A two-level closet is also decorated with paintings. The first level has paintings of birds, butterflies, and flowers, and the second level has historical figure paintings pasted on the surface. Now, we have looked at written poems, various minhwa, and depictions of house. All of this reveal that by the 19th century, minhwa were deeply immersed in people's everyday lives and placed in every corner of their homes. I now want to examine one significant and favorite minhwa theme, tiger with magpies. Throughout history, the tiger has been closely associated with the land, people, and culture of Korea. Koreans identify themselves with a tiger and believe the animal represents Korea. Historian and independence activist Choi Nam-sun once said that Korea is the land of tiger tales. There is no country with more tiger stories than Korea, and no people who liked to listen to tiger stories more than Koreans. Even the map of Korea appears to be an image of a crouching tiger. When Korea hosted the Summer Olympics in 1988, the mascot was stylized tiger called Hodori, and 30 years later, in 2018, when the Winter Olympics were held in Korea, the mascot was a white tiger called Suhorang. The tiger of Korea is the Siberian or Amur tiger, which inhabits colder regions of northeastern Asia. As 70% of the Korean peninsula is mountainous, the area provided good habitat. The Siberian is the largest tiger subspecies and the largest cat in the world. The leopard also was found in Korea and in nearby parts of Russia and China. The subspecies there, the Amur leopard, is considerably smaller than the tiger. An intriguing fact about Korean paintings is the lack of differentiation shown between tigers and leopards. Calling both of them 범, Koreans thought of them as one kind. So in the paintings, some tigers have both stripes and the round dots of leopards. Or sometimes, as in Tiger with Cubs, a mother tiger is shown with both tiger and leopard cubs. The tigers appeared very often in Korean history, even as early as the myth of the founding of Korea's first kingdom established in 2333 BCE. A bear and tiger came to the Son of Heaven and said that they wanted to become humans. The Son of Heaven asked them to go into the cave and stay there for 100 days, eating only cloves of garlics and mugworts. The impatient tiger left the cave before completing its mission, but the bear transformed into a woman after 100 days. This bear woman later gave a birth to Dangun, who became the forefather of the Korean people. And later, after ruling for 1500 years, Dangun went to the mountains and became a mountain god, with a tiger accompanying him as a vehicle and guardian, as seen in Korean Sanshindo paintings. During the Three Kingdoms, Goryeo and Joseon periods, tigers were not only found in mountains and countryside villages, but in cities and even within Gyeongbok Palace, where they attacked people and livestock. There are 635 historical records about tigers in the annals of the Joseon dynasty. Numerous historical documents record that people were attacked and killed by tigers. Tigers were the creature most feared by Koreans. The earliest tiger depictions are on the rocks of Ulsan in southeast Korea. On a huge rock in the Bangudae area, about 5 meters high and 8 meters wide, various animals, hunting tools, and hunting figure are drawn in abundance. The rock is covered with images of sea and land animals such as tigers, leopards, deer, wild boar, foxes, seals, sharks, and whales, as well as human hunters and fishermen. These were engraved in detail so we can recognize their activity, such as a human hunting an animal, a fisherman catching fish in the sea, a shaman wearing mask, and animal trapped in nets of fences. About 6 tigers are shown caught in a net and kept within a fence. Scholars believe that the Bangudae petroglyphs were not drawn by a person, but by villagers over many generations during the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, that is, from 8000 to 400 BCE. As seen in the Bangudae petroglyphs, people hunted tigers early in history. This hunting scene of tigers appear in Goguryeo mural tomb murals paintings, and here a warrior riding horseback is chasing a tiger and animal, aiming his arrow. However, the tiger was thought to be above the status of just a wild beast. It was dignified as a deity and paired with other mythical creatures like the phoenix, dragon, and tortoise with a snake. There were 4 cardinal deities, each guarding one of 4 directions: blue dragon of the east, white tiger of the west, black warrior of the north, and red phoenix of the south. This myth originated in China and was introduced to Korea, where the 4 cardinal guardians appear on Goguryeo tombs of the 4th to 5th centuries. In these mural paintings, the white tiger was stylized and fantasized with elongated body, wings, and flaming mouth. During the unified Shilla period, the idea of 12 deities, or the Chinese zodiac, came to Korea. These animals were sculpted in stone and placed around the palaces, as well as royal tombs during the unified Shilla, Goryeo, and Joseon periods. Hence, in Korean culture, the fearsome and threatening tiger was transformed into a powerful, protective, and worshipped being. For example, the 19th century painting titled Sanshindo depicts the guardian spirit of mountain leaning against a tiger or riding on the back of the animal. The tiger also was believed to do errands for the mountain's guardian spirit, who was known to seek peace and well-being for the villages. So the tiger was ordered by the spirit to protect and foster peace in villages. Koreans used the tiger skin to cover the bride's palanquin to scare off evil spirits. Tiger teeth for protective amulets, and tiger whiskers for military officers' hats. Tiger images, as well as physical parts of the animal, were believed to have magical power. So people decorated their pillows with tiger images to prevent nightmare, and pasted a pair of tiger and dragon paintings in front of their gates on the first day of New Year. During the Joseon dynasty, tigers appeared on paintings for various reasons. In the royal palaces, court painters produced ferocious-looking tiger paintings, paying great attention to details. For example, a tiger is seen twisting its waist as it approaches the viewer. Its careful motion is indicated by the positions of its forefeet. Looking toward the viewer, the tiger raises its long tail. This type of tiger painting is called 출산호도, meaning a painting of tiger emerging from the mountains. The composition is thought to have been first painted by Chinese artist Zhao Miaochuo during the Northern Song dynasty and was produced extensively during Ming dynasty. In Tiger Emerging from the Mountains, attributed Zhao Miaochuo, a tiger stands on a slanted rock with its forelegs closed and its body twisted, staring to the right. In Korea, painting of tiger as an independent subject began in the 17th century and became popular by the 18th century. The image of tiger emerging from the mountains was interpreted as a recluse scholar coming out to the world to correct the world's wrongs. The Book of Changes includes a passage in which the transformation of the tiger and whale parts into magnificent and dignified animals. After shedding their hair while hidden in an autumn fog is likened to a man who is completely transformed into a superior man. As such, the tiger emerging from its hideout often represents the man of virtue or nobleman coming out of seclusion and going out into the world to change it for the better. Another tiger painting theme in Korea is shown by Tiger with Cubs. These themes usually depict a tigress either nursing her young cubs or playing with them. The theme originated in 10th century Chinese painting as a realistic depiction of what painters considered the most challenging subject of tiger painting. Because of the mother tiger's strong protective instincts, intruding upon such a scene might well prove fatal. The earliest recorded paintings of this theme was by the Five Dynasties artist Li Guizhen. He built a treehouse in the mountains and carefully watched the scene to paint. This theme was followed by the Ming court painters and soon spread to Korean and Japanese painters. In the Chinese paintings, we notice a pair of magpies above the mother tiger and cubs. So this might be the kind of like origin of the tiger with magpies paintings. Tiger with magpies, depicting magpies and tigers, was a prominent motif in the Minhwa of the Joseon period. In these paintings, the tiger, which represents authority and the aristocratic elites, is intentionally given a ridiculous and stupid appearance, while the dignified magpies represent the common people. Hence, Tiger with Magpies painting was a satire of the hierarchical structure of Joseon's feudal society. Tiger painting was very popular subjects in China, Japan, and Korea. However, it was only in Korea that this ferocious, sometimes even sacred tiger came to be shown as foolish. This development showed the Korean and Minhwa characteristics in which ordinary people neutralize their fears with humor and naively challenge the most powerful and threatening beings. By downgrading a threatening tiger into a friendly or even a foolish and comical being and making fun of the king of the beasts, it could be said that Korean people have a worldview of equality. The power and threat of the powerful was brought down through a humor and satire in the world of Minhwa. The last part of my presentation is on chaekgeori, Korean still life, which first appeared in the late 18th century. Even though the exact origin of Korean chaekgeori is not known, the prevalent feature of side-by-side shelves and complex shelves is thought to reflect a foreign origin for chaekgeori paintings. Because Korean shelves, both before and after the appearance of chaekgeori, were a single column only, and so had simple horizontal divisions. Regardless of its possible foreign origin, chaekgeori screens became very popular in Joseon, Korea in the late 18th century, and the early nurturing and spread of chaekgeori in Korea is most attributable to King Jeongjo. Known for his deep admiration for books, Jeongjo founded a palace library called Gyujanggap, and unfortunately, he lacked time for reading, but he found satisfaction in seeing the painting of books on bookshelves. Even though we don't have the chaekgeori screens that King Jeongjo admired, these 10-panel chaekgeori screens full of both Korean and Chinese books at the National Palace Museums might be close to the type of chaekgeori that King Jeongjo enjoyed. Soon, chaekgeori screens became very trendy artwork and were thought not only by the ruling elites, but technical professionals and wealthy commoners. The objects depicted on the bookshelves were not only what the owners possessed, but were carefully selected and presented symbolic and auspicious items, coded for communicating statements of identity. In this manner, chaekgeori follows the established tradition of painting reading, or dokwa in East Asian literary culture, in which paintings deliver messages through extensive visual symbolisms. Each object was coded with hidden meanings through their pronunciation, physical appearance, or related anecdotes. And it was the role of the viewer to decipher the messages, meanings, and read the message of the chaekgeori paintings. Here, I have decoded the paintings for you, and you can see that the code consists of Chinese phonetic puns and metaphors based on qualities associated with objects. With the patrons exploiting how chaekgeori screens could be used to deliver personal and cultural messages, painters explored artistic potential of the new genres by incorporating spatial depth through curtains and often drawers. Can you see the open drawers down there? As time went by, chaekgeori became popular with and accessible to more people and took on different form. Departing from the bookshelf format, this tabletop chaekgeori were more like European still lifes, with the books and objects piled on and around small tables. The intermingling of reality and abstraction takes many forms in chaekgeori screens. Tabletop chaekgeori artists freely adopted diverse perspectives in depicting objects. Their compositions are typically less restrained, more cluttered, and more dynamic than the bookshelf chaekgeori, which are stabilized and grounded by their horizontal and vertical lines. Also, the Minhwa chaekgeori artists combine their still life objects with other real and imaginary animals, creating the fantastic Minhwa artworks. Korean artists and studio used underdrawings and other aids in production of chaekgeori paintings. A set of 4 tabletop chaekgeori underdrawings is extant and provides very valuable insights into the production of tabletop chaekgeori paintings. The outline of the basic design is drawn in ink on paper, and other instructions like colors, patterns, and painting techniques are written on each object. However, if we compare the patterns with the various finer products, it appears that actual painters often used their own and or the patron's aesthetic preferences to color in and decorate the details. The Gwahae Minhwa Museum collection contains an underdrawing and 5 paintings obviously derived from this drawing. The basic pattern is this. On top of a small table stands a vase with a wave design. Sitting on its own 4-legged Gonnard tree stand and containing a branch of wisteria. To its left is a bowl containing a pair of Korean melons. Slightly behind are a wine bottle with wave design topped by a tiny inverted cup. A stack of 3 sets of cased books topped by a rabbit figurine sits behind the table, and a small book box case with a cloud design and a tassel lies below the table. If we compare this underdrawing with 5 finer paintings, we see that while the basic compositions was faithfully followed, all the colors and patterns are different. Especially in the 5th painting, the painter added more background elements and a bow and quiver. This suggests that the patron of this 5th chaekgeori might have been a military man who wanted to indicate his personal identity with a bow and arrow. Examination of this tabletop chaekgeori attests that the artist used such underdrawings very often and also added more objects, possibly from life, perhaps upon request of the commissioner. Prior to the late Joseon, fine art, like paintings, was exclusively enjoyed by royalty and the elite, who commissioned the artist directly or through middlemen. Though even in this case, we do not know to what extent assistants and apprentices were employed in the creation of the paintings. However, by the late 18th century, there were open art markets, such as paper shops, antique shops, and bookstores around the Kwangtung Bridge in central Seoul, where ready-made minhwa were displayed in and outside of the shops. In other words, like other consumer objects, paintings became commodities in an array of styles and prices for people of different tastes and incomes. One last thing to which I would draw attention is the continuation and development of minhwa in contemporary time. One contemporary artist, Kim Min-soo, follows the chaekgeori framework of complex compartmental display shelves and packs the shelves with a profusion of objects against a daring red background. The assorted objects represent a busy global culture. Another artist, Im Soo-sik, has produced a series of contemporary chaekgeori works. Intrigued by the idea that every bookshelf represents the owner's taste, vocation, and character. Im takes photographs of objects on shelves, prints his photographs, and reorganizes them to make an interesting composition. Lastly, the contemporary artist An Sung-min's fantastic mindscape was also inspired by the Joseon court painter Lee Taek-yoon's bookshelf-style chaekgeori screens. So, I would like to conclude my presentation with 4 characteristics of Minhwa. First, Minhwa is unique and no two Minhwa works are the same. Unlike some other cultures, Korean Minhwa was not mass-produced by woodblock prints. As we have seen, Minhwa artists painted with underdrawings. However, they had the flexibility to revise and composition and add other attributes to the paintings. Likewise, they appear to have liberty to choose color and patterns based on their aesthetics and or to follow the patron's requests. Second, Minhwa artists expressed their creativity and imagination in their paintings, as seen in the imaginary animals in chaekgeori screens. Third, Minhwa reflects the humor and resistant character of the Korean people. Tigers had been the most powerful and threatening beasts in the peninsula. For a long time, they were numerous and the top predators. Fully aware of the ubiquitous presence, Koreans worshipped them as a mountain deity, a guardian, and a symbol of human virtue. However, in Minhwa, these strong and frightening beasts become silly and sometimes mocked animals that small magpies could make fun of. To make the king of beasts a mere idiot tiger happens only in Korean Minhwa and reveals some characters of the Korean people. Changing fear to humor demonstrates the underlying strengths of Koreans and their potential energy to overcome so much difficulty and hardship throughout their history. Lastly, Minhwa is organic and lively. As defined earlier, Minhwa is Korean paintings of the people, by the people, and for the people. As Koreans continue to survive and flourish today, so does Minhwa. As we have seen, contemporary artists are giving it new interpretations and meanings. Such is well illustrated by the chaekgeori paintings of Kim Min-soo, Im Soo-sik, and An Sung-min. Minhwa continues to evolve as if having a life of its own. And I believe it will never stop growing and reflecting the developing ideas and hopes of the Korean people. Thank you. So I'd like to open the floor for Q&A.
If you raise your hand, if you have any questions.
I have 2 questions actually. The first one is about tiger and bear. You mentioned that the story of tiger and bear, and it seems like bear also played a very important role in Korean culture. But I feel like I have never really seen a Korean bear painting. I don't know if it's true that it's underrepresented in Korean paintings, but if it's true, why is that?
Okay, well, that's a very excellent question. And I have to tell you that I don't know the answer, but I have been thinking about that. Why bear became a woman, who is the bear woman and who is the mother of the Tangun, then why we don't really depict or look for this bear in their paintings, while the impatient and failed tiger is often constantly, continuously appearing in Korean paintings or stories, etc. As I said, I don't know the answers, but it is true. But just for fun, I say that's just because bear became humans, and we don't see the bear, as an animal anymore. But yeah, it is true that they are very underrepresented, and I don't see any Koreans kind of relating themselves with a bear. So yeah, I'm still seeking for that questions and answers. But thank you. You said you have 2 questions? Uh-huh.
Yeah, so my second question is about the under drawings of Minhwa. It seems like they have this kind of unified standard way of under drawings. So how were those standards made? Who made them?
That's also a very excellent questions. It's very understudied about the underdrawings, which is called a 본그림 in Koreans. And I read somewhere that some court painters sometimes draw underdrawings and put on the in the middle of markets, and all these itinerant painters or the folk painters came and copied them. However, the workshops or studios of these Minhwa painters is not known, but there is a record of the court painters kind of got together and carry out the commission works. So, yes. Okay, sure.
So I have a question from the viewer. Can you talk a little bit about the painters who created the image? I think it's kind of related a little bit. Were they itinerant artists who were painting them for a specific purpose, such as the New Year? Were there other occasions they were painting? And do we know any of the identity of the painters? You mentioned that they were unknown. Is there any evidence that there were women who were working in the studio producing Minhwa?
Thank you for asking very important questions. For the Joseon dynasty, the named women artist we know is many of you know, Shin Saimdang, the Lady Shin. However, I believe there are a few other women artists, and most are kiseng, the female entertainers who were educated, how to paint and how to read and compose the poetries. We know later period, this kiseng, we know them because later under the colonial period, these women kiseng artists actually submitted their work for the competition, Joseon art exhibitions, and won the awards. So, however, during the Joseon dynasty, no records of women artists, as far as I know, are extant. And itinerant artists or painters, we don't know their names, but from novels or writing collections, we see there was a traveling artist who roamed around and stayed in somebody's house for winter, and were provided by the shelter and food, and as exchange of paintings. So these are how many they were kind of like artists in residence. but they didn't really leave any, written signatures or records. So we only trace them through the writings of other people who hosted them, etc. Okay, and
Well, I can continue with the questions from online viewers. So, is there such a concept of authenticity when it comes to Minhwa, since all the artists are practically anonymous, or do we, and I guess the question is, right now we are always very especially in Western art history, you're always concerned about whether that painter actually painted the painting or if it's the studio. Is there any questions like that being asked for the Minhwa from the Joseon period, or is that kind of a moot point?
okay. At first, about like 10 years ago, when I first kind of looking at Minhwa paintings, I thought, they were just anonymous painters who painted. But as I view them, lots of them, and artists have their desire to kind of leave their some kind of signatures, okay, artistic signatures. So as I saw many paint of the Minhwa paintings, can kind of like tell that, oh, these, they leave some kind of like stylistic, or they have their own way of painting some trees or some colors or some brush strokes. So I can see that, maybe it's my imaginations, but I can hear that people like, okay, I'm a just mere folk painters, but remember, forget me not, or remember me, this is what I did. So I can kind of like categorize them like, in a way. I don't know exact their identities, but it's possible to kind of like, find a group of work that was done by a painter or the workshops, because they do have very distinctive styles and use of colors and strokes and objects, those subjects, etc. So,
And then, so I think it's kind of related because with regard to the class commentary that you mentioned in Gachi and Horangi paintings, the magpie and tiger paintings, if they were reproduced by scholars and court artists, did they ever actually respond to the criticism by the commoners? Were they, were they aware of what the meaning behind the paintings were?
I haven't found any written records or comments on the this satiric or tigers with magpies. There might have been, or actually, these paintings were very enjoyed by not only commoners but by Yangban people as well, and especially by foreigners who visited Korea in late 19th and early 20th century. I don't. But we still see these satirical paintings or in nowadays. But it's not like once they don't really, I guess at the time they knew what it was, but they didn't really write any critics or comments. I don't know why, because it's dangerous or what, but yeah, so I hope I did
So
answer
nothing
that
was
question.
written down. So I think we have time for one last question. If nobody's going to ask, then I'm going to go to, oh, there you go.
Yeah, you mentioned that for a long time, Minhwa has sort of been overlooked or not valued. When did that start to change, and what do you think the reasons are that the Korea and Korean people are starting to like place more value in Minhwa artworks?
Hmm. It's very good questions. So, revisiting Minhwa, or there are many artistrians or artists or collectors still is on debate about the name of the minhwa, because minhwa is coined by the Japanese folklorist during the colonial period, Yanagi Muneyoshi. So there are discussions that we need to rename or recoin these terms. So some people say 한국화 or 결의 그림 or 민족화 or something like that. But that's why I kind of like came up with the painting, because folk paintings, the translation of folk paintings is kind of like gives an implication of unsophisticated, amateurish, and not very well skilled paintings. But in fact, the min is not really about folk paintings, but it's about people. However, it was, I would say, 1960s and 70s that a few scholars like Jo Ja-yong, who studied in the States, went back to Korea, and he kind of like began to collect and publish and have an exhibition, especially on this tiger paintings, a tiger with magpies. And after that, there were a group of artistrians and collectors and museum curators and directors studied about minhwa. And so it became popular recently, last couple of decades, because a lot of people, the women and amateur people actually began to join the minhwa painting practice, and they were established the minhwa hakgyo school, minhwa schools, and etc. So there are a lot of under kind of like minhwa kind of painters, not professional painters, but the amateurish painters in Korea and in the States, because it's it's easy to kind of practice or paint, because there are many kind of like underdrawing or patterns kind of books. So it's a very recent phenomena to revisit and reevaluate minhwa in Korean art history. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Kim, for your lecture. We really, really appreciate it, and I hope you can come back and tell us more about Korean art. So thank you so much.
Thank you.